So you thought Red Bull couldn't get more desperate to keep Max Verstappen? Well, think again, because according to reports, they're now willing to do something that's never been done in Formula One history. They're actually considering putting Verstappen's name in the official title of one of their teams. Yeah, you heard that right. Red Bull might rename a whole F1 team after Max Verstappen, just to keep him around. It's not just a small sponsorship deal or some PR stunt. We're talking about giving a driver naming rights, turning him into a literal part of the team's identity. No team has ever gone this far. Not Mercedes with Hamilton, not Ferrari with Schumacher. Red Bull is now willing to make Verstappen bigger than the brand itself. And that brings us to the big question. Is this a bold power move, or is it a sign that Red Bull is slowly falling apart from the inside? Let's be honest, Red Bull is not the same team it was just a year ago. Internally, it's falling apart. First, they lost Adrian Newey. Now, that's not just a technical director walking away, that's the brain behind almost every car that made Red Bull a powerhouse in the sport. Newey leaving? That's massive. It shook the entire structure. But it didn't end there. Soon after, Jonathan Wheatley and Pierre Wache, both important names in Red Bull's racing operations, also made quiet exits. These are people who worked closely with Max, understood the car, the data, and how to stay ahead of the competition. Once they started leaving too, it became clear something serious was going on behind the scenes. And then the biggest one, Christian Horner. He's been with the team since day one, built the culture, built the success, and now sacked. And most people believe it wasn't just about team politics, it was about Max Verstappen. Reports say the Austrian shareholders removed Horner just to keep Max from walking out. When you lose this many top-level people in one season, that's not restructuring, that's a meltdown. But here's why Red Bull is panicking so much. Max Verstappen is the team right now. In 2024, he scored 74% of Red Bull's total points. Let that sink in. Without Max, the team isn't even close to being competitive. The other driver in the second RB21, he only managed 7 points all season. And the moment all the key technical staff left, the performance dipped. The upgrades they've brought, not working. Race strategy, sloppy. The second car might as well be invisible. Red Bull knows exactly what they're dealing with. Max isn't just fast, he's the only reason they're still winning. And if he leaves, the team risks falling behind, not just Ferrari and McLaren, but maybe even Mercedes. No Max means no titles, and they know it. That's why they're going all in. Reports say Red Bull is offering Verstappen naming rights to one of their teams. That's right, they're willing to make him a title sponsor. We're not talking about a logo on the side of the car. This is Red Bull possibly calling a team Verstappen Racing or something similar. That's unheard of. Let's put it in perspective. Lewis Hamilton never got this with Mercedes. Michael Schumacher never got it with Ferrari. Even when they were at the peak of their careers, no one was bigger than the team. But now, Red Bull seems ready to break that rule, and it makes sense when you look at their history. They've renamed their second team multiple times: Toro Rosso, AlphaTauri, and now a new name that feels more like a business experiment than a real contender. Giving Max naming rights just continues that trend, but this time it's personal. It's not about selling energy drinks or fashion, it's about keeping their star from walking out the door. Let's step back and ask a simple question. What happens when a driver becomes bigger than the team? That's exactly what Red Bull is flirting with. Giving Max naming rights doesn't just show loyalty, it shifts power. Suddenly, the line between team and driver gets blurry. Verstappen's not just racing for Red Bull, he'd practically be Red Bull. And that opens the door to bigger issues. Would Max start influencing technical decisions? Would he start shaping the team culture, staff choices, or even strategy direction? Because once your name is on the team, it's no longer just about driving, it's about control. We've already seen this play out with Christian Horner's departure. Sources suggest his exit wasn't just about management issues, it was to keep Max happy. That's the clearest proof yet of how much weight Verstappen already holds. And if one driver can push out a principal who built the team from scratch, what's next? It's risky. Red Bull's structure depends on balance between shareholders, engineers, and drivers. Letting one person dominate the conversation, even if it's Max, could throw all that off. While Red Bull is bending over backwards to please Max, Mercedes is playing the long game. Remember the Sardinia meeting between Verstappen and Toto Wolff? It wasn't just two professionals chatting. That was Mercedes making their move, quietly watching Red Bull unravel and waiting for the perfect time to strike. Why would Max even consider switching? First, the new 2026 regulations level the playing field. Everyone starts fresh. That means Mercedes could build a car capable of challenging for titles again, and Max could lead that next era. Second, the Mercedes brand is massive, way beyond just F1. It's global, respected, and powerful. Verstappen joining them would elevate his profile, open up brand deals, and reach a new audience. Third, it's a challenge, and Max has already proved he can dominate in Red Bull. Doing the same with Mercedes would cement him as one of the greats. It's legacy stuff. Yes, there's baggage from 2021. The controversial title win still leaves a bad taste with Mercedes fans. But this is Formula One. Rivalries fade and big moves happen when you least expect them. Just look at Hamilton's move to Ferrari. So now, Max has a decision to make. Staying at Red Bull gives him something no other driver has ever had, a shot at putting his name on a team. That's unheard of. It builds his legacy, creates business opportunities, and lets him shape the future of his career beyond just racing. It could even motivate him to race longer than expected. Remember, he said before that he might retire before 30, but if Red Bull makes him part of the brand literally, that could change everything. On the other hand, things at Red Bull are shaky. The team has lost key leadership, including Newey, Wheatley, and Horner. The 2026 power unit built in-house with Ford is completely untested. That's a gamble. And Max isn't the type to sit around hoping an experiment works. He wants to win. And if Red Bull can't guarantee that, not even naming a team after him might be enough to keep him on board. Here's something people don't talk about enough. Verstappen isn't just a driver anymore. He's a full-blown brand. His name carries massive value. He's got a loyal fan base, growing global reach, and marketability that goes beyond Formula One. And Red Bull knows it. That's what makes this naming rights deal even more interesting. It's not just a way to keep Max happy, it's also a way to tie his personal brand directly into the team's marketing machine. But here's the catch. Red Bull built its image on being in control of its branding. Their cars are basically giant rolling billboards. Every inch of that chassis is a calculated business decision. The color, the sponsors, the energy drink identity, all of it screams Red Bull first. Letting Verstappen become a title sponsor means handing over a piece of that identity. Now you've got a split between Red Bull Racing and Verstappen Inc. And that's where things get messy. If Max uses this platform to promote his own sponsors, businesses, or foundation, what happens to Red Bull's control? What if there's a clash between his vision and theirs? We've seen before that Red Bull doesn't play nice when their marketing vision is challenged, so unless they're ready to give up some of that power, this partnership could become a tug of war real fast. Now, let's not pretend Max is making all these decisions in a vacuum. His father, Jos Verstappen, plays a much bigger role than most people realize. Jos has been outspoken about Red Bull's management, especially Horner. He's been critical in public, calling out instability, favoritism, and even suggesting the team was on a path to collapse under Christian's leadership. And here's what's interesting. Shortly after those comments started gaining traction, Horner was out. Coincidence? Maybe, but probably not. Jos has a lot of pull in Max's decision-making. He's fiercely protective of his son's career and doesn't trust people easily. If he believes Red Bull is no longer stable or that Max's long-term interests aren't being prioritized, you can bet he'll push for a change, whether that's demanding more influence or pushing Max toward Mercedes. It's clear now that the team isn't just trying to manage Max, they're managing the Verstappen camp. That's a completely different level of complexity, and Red Bull's past shows they don't handle power struggles well. This could be the beginning of another one. And finally, let's talk about what's waiting around the corner. 2026, the new era era of regulations, the new engine formula, new aero rules, and for Red Bull, a completely new power unit developed in-house. It's a massive shift. They'll no longer be relying on Honda. Instead, they're partnering with Ford to badge their own engines through Red Bull powertrains. On paper, that sounds exciting, more independence, more control. But here's the issue. This team has never built a complete F1 engine before. They're starting from scratch, and they've lost the experienced technical leaders who might have guided that transition. Without Newey, Wachi, and others, who's actually running this project? Can they really compete with teams like Mercedes, Ferrari, and even Audi, who all have engine building experience? If Red Bull gets the 2026 powertrain wrong, it could ruin their chances for years. And Max knows that. That's why he's stalling. That's why he's not committing yet, because if that engine fails, not even having a team named after him will matter. At the end of the day, Red Bull needs to ask itself a serious question. Are they still focused on building a championship-winning team, or are they just doing everything they can to keep one driver happy? Because giving Verstappen naming rights might keep him around a little longer, but that doesn't fix the deeper problem. The car needs work, the upgrades haven't been delivered, the technical leadership is gone, and heading into 2026, they'll be running a brand new, unproven engine with Ford. That's a huge risk on its own. Instead of using this time to rebuild a solid technical foundation, Red Bull seems focused on keeping Max locked in with short-term incentives. That might work today, but what happens if the car falls short tomorrow? Will a name on the side of the garage be enough to win races? Putting one man above the team rarely ends well. It creates an imbalance, it kills development, and it sends the message that no matter what happens, one person's preferences matter more than the system as a whole. What do you guys think? Is Red Bull saving itself with this bold offer or selling its soul just to keep Verstappen from leaving? Do you think this offer makes sense, or is it a disaster waiting to happen? Let me know in the comments.